She in third or fourth grade at the time?
Fourth grade.
Her birthday is later in the year then?
2 weeks after after the accident.
So she has her 10th birthday in the hospital.
Yes.
So they're worried about her eye, the optic nerve getting severed. What else are they worried about as she starts to wake up?
Swallowing was the issue. She could talk one answer, one word answers, and the swallowing was what we were worried about. So we actually had to have her do a swallow study before they'd let her eat anything, and we couldn't let her eat for another couple of days, so they had the feeding tube actually in her for like, I want to say, a week and a half, just because there was no desire to eat. She had no desire to eat. That brain function wasn't there. That hunger was knocking on the door. She just couldn't prioritize it.
She lost a lot of weight.
Yes.
What did she weigh at the time? 75 pounds?
She had like a little layer of baby fat to her, but she was a healthy kid, not overweight by any means. But when she got done in the hospital, she was quite thin. Everything was thin.
So she had problems with swallowing. Is she starting to show any cognitive function or dysfunction at this point?
Not much to do when you're laying in a hospital bed. I mean, just answering of questions. Never really started like the processing of different situations and how to get from point A to point B and things like that. The neurologist had come in, checked her synapses or her reflexes, and physical therapist came in just to try to see if we could get her in a wheelchair into a sitting position and if she could tolerate that. And she did.
Moving her extremities fine?
Yes, as far as I know, they were fine. She was all crunched over and kind of on one side. I just figured it was probably from, the whiplash sensation. She was probably really sore. They finally detached, or started taking, like, she was hooked up to, I don't know what I said, 8 or 12 IVs, and she had machines everywhere, and they started unhooking one by one by one and took the femoral line out. And, that was a good sign when I started seeing all those unhooked. But like I said,
femoral lines in the leg.
Right.
Now, she got a feeding tube?
Mm-hmm.
Is that stomach? Peg
Through
tube?
the nasal
Okay.
feeding tube.
So they were able to feed her that way.
Mm-hmm.
Were she getting any nutrition to speak of?
Well, what they were afraid of was that if they would have left her on for 2 weeks, I guess there's a measurement of time that the feeding tube is insignificant, that they would have to do something different, probably a direct stomach line then. But we just started introducing her to things a little bit by little bit, different foods, and we decided to pull the line, and we tried simple things like applesauce.
When does the swelling in the eyes go down enough so that she can begin to see?
That was about 3 weeks, and they actually sewed the eye shut. They used it.
Both of them, or just the left?
Just the left. And
At what point did they do that?
it was the first weekend that Dominic had come down, so she had just gotten that.
First weekend that your husband came down?
My son.
Oh, your son.
Mm-hmm. I had seen her. And unfortunately, it's just like this red piece of rubber to pad the eyelid where the suture came through. And of course, it looked very scary to him, and you'd never seen her, and you knew what was going on, but obviously you can never prepare yourself, so it was quite frightening for him.
Is she looking relatively good at this point as far as what she looked like in the day of the accident?
Oh yes, the swelling was going down, the neck was coming back into shape, the ears were fine, they weren't puffy, and her balance was a little questionable yet, but she got up and went to the door to answer the door when they came to wish her a happy birthday and drove down.
So this is what, 2 weeks?
2 weeks.
And so she answers the door even though she can't see?
Out of that eye, yeah. The right eye's open.